First of all, though, let's get the thoughts of journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, who joins us today. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Lots to talk about. We'll start with Trump. We'll start with this state visit, and we'll talk about, I mean, all the pomp and circumstance yesterday. I've got to be honest with you. I'm not the biggest fan of bagpipes or brass bands. No, no offence to people who are in wonderful brass bands, but it was a long ceremony. It was a long ceremony, and of course, you watch it all and you think, is it going to stop soon? I have a funny feeling that Donald Trump and Melania Trump felt exactly the same way. But there we are. But he loves that pomp and circumstance. Is it right? Was it worth it for Britain to roll out that red carpet, state banquet, all these lovely words, everyone's putting on their finery, all of this, to keep Donald Trump on side, whether it's to get these economic deals, all these jobs and these investments that apparently wouldn't happen otherwise, which I find risible from any government claiming it, and indeed have as an important ally?
I mean, I think it is worth it. It's also worth noting that while it's a historic second state visit, it's also the most curtailed state visit there has ever been.
Keep it short. Parliament not sitting.
Exactly. It's the shortest one that's ever been done for a foreign leader. It's obviously being done in Windsor, so it's much harder for the sort of mass demonstrations that would have been likely in London. It's basically behind closed doors from start to finish.
Well, apart from this press conference.
Indeed, which I'm really quite
It didn't stop the BBC, by the way, yesterday, spending an inordinate amount of time, and this morning, about the protesters. I mean, 5,000 raggedy tag people, pro-Palestinian flags and all that, turning up, or, F Trump and things like that. I mean, they don't give that much coverage to, anti-Semitism march or any other, anti-lockdown marches when we had them. Oh, no. But 5,000, professional protesters who turn up to every protest at the drop of a hat. Oh, no, very, very important.
And also, I saw some pictures of very pro-Trump people in Windsor gathering. So clearly they've been trying to make their voice heard as well. But I do think it's worth it because, and also when you talk about the investments, which I think is £150 billion has been announced, and Trump sort of has an unusually strong pull on American businesses because he's so involved in cultural questions, and some would say that he's rather aggressive when companies make decisions they don't like. So I think there is a greater benefit to having him on side, because clearly if he says jump, a lot of people in America say how high. So I think it's worth it in that sense. It's also, of course, an enormous fraud. I mean, Keir Starmer, I'm sure, cannot bear what Donald Trump says, as much of the government probably can't. So I actually think, in a sense, he gets full marks for diplomacy, because it's an excellent deployment of it. And also, I think it's been quite well organised. The fact that it was William and Catherine that met them from the plane.
That's what Donald Trump when he likes a bit of glamour.
Because they are the young, glamorous ones. They are popular in America, I suspect, particularly with the Maga crowd. They are popular. Yeah. And so I think it's been pretty well executed.
And we know, the royals know what they're doing in that, with that stuff.
And Catherine sat next to him at dinner. I suspect he was rather grateful for that.
I imagine that was a requirement. Yes. That was who he wanted to sit next to. Melania looking daggers at him. Can we talk about the most significant thing yesterday? I mean, just briefly. Can we talk about how absolutely horrible Melania Trump's dress was? Sorry, this is a very, very beautiful, very, very stylish woman. I look at her and go, wow, most of the time, some of the outfits she wears. And I know it doesn't matter. What was she thinking? Also, these state banquets, you don't do off the shoulder, do you? Isn't it very formal? That's why, I mean, Kate always dresses like she's a dowager duchess, doesn't I mean, she does. Beautiful woman, everything. But, literally, just that's how... She knows the deal. She knows the score. Future Queen, that's how you... But it just... Oh, I don't know. But anyway...
Well, I mean, I feel so stuffy, but I was genuinely shocked when I saw shoulders at a state banquet.
Shoulders at a state banquet?
I felt Victorian.
Handbag?
I was horrified. I really was.
See, it's what we're all talking about. It's what we're all talking about. Anyway, no. Look, we're told there's a huge amount of investment, this AI investment. There's something like, 30 billion here. I mean, let's just say 70 trillion. I mean, let's just make some numbers up. I mean, a lot of it, when people talk about investment, whether it's these firms or whether it's the government, they're often talking about investment over 10 years. So not that much then. But also, you're talking about stuff. No big business is going, well, I wasn't going to go and set up my business or expand my business in Britain, but Donald and Melania are over, and they're going to get a nice little bit of brass band action and get in a gold carriage. So now I am going to put billions on the line. That's not what happens. I mean, these announcements are all made at the time of these visits. That's part of the deal. But I mean, is there a big benefit to us?
Well, I think obviously that's going to be largely true, but I would say there are lots of companies that want to cozy up to Trump, and so if getting bigger numbers so that he's got something to say when he comes here wins them favour, then I think in the case of President Trump, there probably is a benefit to going a bit further. And the other thing is that, reputation matters, and some of the stuff that circles online about Britain is not so positive at the moment. So having the most powerful man in the world celebrating our economy and celebrating investment is very useful. It's
probably good for tourism, bearing in mind tourism is a huge industry, a huge employer in this country as well. So, like, look at this, you've got all these pictures on American TV and American media of, Windsor Castle and the carriages and the King and Queen. Americans eat that stuff up, and American tourists spend a heck of a lot of money. I remember when I was waitressing in London in my sort of teens and 20s, you knew Americans at the table, as they're going to be big spenders and big tippers. They're spending their money. They pay for expensive hotels, and they'd go to restaurants. They go to all the shows. This keeps Theatreland in business. It keeps lots of other places, Edinburgh, Bath, York, places like that. They can't survive without American tourists. So there's a lot of fallout from these things. Let's talk about how this press conference is going to go this afternoon, because today, any moment now, Donald Trump is departing Windsor Castle. He's going to be meeting with the Prime Minister formally, as opposed to sort of sitting near him at a banquet, and they're going to be talking about it's economic stuff. No doubt Ukraine is going to come up. Now we're going to have a situation where you've got the British Prime Minister trying to sort of push Donald Trump to basically side with Ukraine when it comes to the battle with the invasion from Russia. But at the same time, you've got Donald Trump and his people, and his Secretary of State Marco Rubio is there, and he's been very sound on Israel and Gaza, no doubt saying, for the love of God, why are you planning to recognise Palestinian state days after we leave, ahead of a UN General Assembly meeting, when Hamas have already publicly celebrated and thanked you for saying you're going to do that, even if there's no peace, even if they do not stand Hamas down as leaders of those poor 2.5 million people, even if the hostages are still being held, and as a reward for October the 7th massacre, and using the Palestinian people as a human shield. I mean, that's insanity, isn't it?
Well, on the first point about Ukraine, I think King Charles mentioned the US and UK fighting tyranny together, and speaking of Ukraine, which I thought was a rather good use of his diplomacy to make an impact on Donald Trump, who's a little bit wavering at times on that question.
The King is solid on this one. He made a real point of seeing Zelensky after that, being very friendly after that mauling by J.D. Vance and Trump in the White House.
So I think that was a rather good use of diplomacy with Marco Rubio and Donald Trump in the room. On the Palestine question, I mean, you would think that the US would be angry at this decision, but actually they seem kind of indifferent, which is rather...
It's meaningless.
Yeah, exactly. It's meaningless, and we don't have any influence over what's going to happen, which emphasises how meaningless it is. I do think that...
Isn't that classic Keir Starmer politics, then? It's just that, and you got Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, saying, there is a genocide in Gaza, after the UN Commission laughably. I mean, the report is... It would be funny if it wasn't so serious, how laughable it is, but the evidence they cite and the things they ignore. But you've got everyone piping up. This is gesture politics, which is what this Labour lot have been doing for years. But now it's serious because they're in government.
Yeah, it's gesture politics, but it's at the expense of the 20 or so hostages that are thought to be alive in Gaza, for whom apparently their kidnapping does not matter, because Hamas will be rewarded with the opportunity of statehood because of the actions they took in one of the most monstrous terrorist attacks, declarations of war that they did in October 7th.
I mean, your lefty mates aren't going to be happy with you saying that.
Well, but I mean, on the centre left, on the parliamentary Labour Party left, many of them have been involved in Labour Friends of Israel and things. So I actually think many Labour MPs won't be thrilled by this. But the pressure is coming from two places. The Muslim community, of course, is largely
Muslim leaders in particular.
Yeah,
and also self-appointed men usually.
Also a sort of metropolitan middle-class white community that is constantly on these marches.
Who haven't got a clue.
They've really
moved seamlessly from climate to trans to Palestine. Seamlessly.
Exactly.
The latest virtue signalling course to show I have the correct opinions. I am a good person.
But you're not a good person when you back terrorists that do murder gay
Call me
people
old-fashioned.
and women and Jews. You know, it's absolutely monstrous. And the truth is, this does nothing to help resolve the situation. Of course, the ideal conclusion one day, the only viable conclusion, is a two-state solution. It's not going to happen now, and unless you defeat the terrorists and you take on the evil that has, you know, there is a genocide here. The genocide is Hamas and Hezbollah and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that have it explicitly in their intention. And so when people say, oh, do you support a genocide? I say, no, that's why I back Israel.
Yeah, it's really that simple. It really is that simple. Let's talk about, we're going to talk about madness. I mean, absolute lunacy. Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary. A lot of people have quite a lot of hopes for her. Like, oh, you know, she seems pretty darn sane as they go. She's been fairly solid when she was Justice Secretary. She has accused illegal migrants of, quote, making a mockery of Britain's laws and generosity. She vowed to fight last-minute legal appeals against the government's one-in, one-out deal. This, as we've told, this week we're going to get some of those. There are 100 migrants who arrived in early August who have been detained, and they're supposed to be being sent to France. We're going to get some, you know, same number back. We've not managed to get anyone on a plane yet. And they're basically using the most... I mean, we've got this Eritrean man, 25-year-old, supposed to have been deported yesterday morning. On Tuesday evening, the High Court, again, oh, you know, you've got a major issue. You're trying to get to the High Court to get an appeal. You're waiting years, by the way. Oh, no, you're an Eritrean. Oh, straight to the front of the queue. At least 3 Channel migrants were pulled off deportation flights yesterday, including this 25-year-old Eritrean. Basically, it's giving him 14 days more to provide evidence to support his claim to be a victim of modern-day slavery. He arrives in this country. His mum paid £1,000 for him to come over the Channel. He arrived in this country.
It's quite a good deal.
Quite a good deal. I know. Well, no, that's capitalism. You see, more boats, more, you know. The price goes down. And he's arrived in this country. When he was asked if he'd been exploited, he hadn't. Then, of course, some charities and lawyers got involved, and it turns out he had been a victim of people trafficking, but not over the Channel, previously to another country. He also, his lawyers are claiming that he could be destitute if he's in France, because you don't get a 4-star hotel and 3 square meals a day in France. You'll probably be made to live in a tent. And there has been a court case in France where people have basically said, you know, I'll be destitute, and therefore France is in breach of these rules. One of the reasons people come here is because they don't get, you know, 4-star hotels in France. But this could be used by every single migrant, every single one. Now, there are people who are trafficked in modern-day slavery, literally women being trafficked, you know, to be sex slaves, forced to work as prostitutes, basically to be raped every single day by 20 men. My God, we need to protect those people. But this guy's mum paid for him to get over the Channel. He's not a victim. Even if he was, he can go back to France and deal with his trauma there. They are making a mockery. But here's the thing, extraordinarily, it was a charity backed by the Home Office called Bail for Immigration Detainees. The charity is called Bail for Immigration Detainees. I wonder what they do. I mean, you know, it does exactly what it says on the tin. But the government's own website states that welfare services must provide migrants who are held in removal centres with a notebook produced by this charity, which provides legal advice to people in detention, giving them template letters for using legal and human rights arguments to fight deportation. This charity also, by the way, has been funded by 400 grand from Comic Relief. So that's your and my money. So whether it's by the taxpayer, or, you know, so you don't get a choice, or whether it's Comic Relief and you might have made generous donations. I mean, make the donations, just don't watch the show, because it's literally... the relief is to not watch Comic Relief. The unfunniest night of the year on TV. Genuinely awful. But I mean, what did Shabana Mahmood think? Did she think that... those silly, useless, incompetent Tories, soon as I'm in charge, or as soon as Labour in charge, suddenly all those refugee charities and lawyers who are making a fortune out of all of this, all of those NGOs, the civil service, the activist judges, all of that's going to just disappear in a puff of smoke, and then they're going to be able to deport people. What did they expect to happen? Well,
I mean, the Home Secretary said yesterday that people that you claim to be victims of slavery on the evening before their deportation are making a mockery of our legal system. Yeah. Well, she's right, but the question, she's also responsible for fixing it now.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's almost like if you're elected as a government and you've got a majority in Parliament, and I say this to the last government as well, you have the power to change the law. Otherwise, I don't know why we bother electing governments, because isn't that one of the things they're supposed to do, to make laws and change laws? And you have the power to change the law and then make it happen.
I mean, there's clearly something farcical about the fact that we can't remove people who have been convicted of crimes, for example. I think you have to get a 12-month prison sentence before that question arises. Yeah. Now, that's a relatively serious crime, and so you've got lots
No one gets even 12 months now.
Indeed. So, you've got lots of people that are allowed to stay. I think Shabana Mahmood was put in the job because she is seen as within government as more hardline. She was quite well.
I'll tell you why she was put in the job.
She was well respected as Justice
She was put in the
Secretary.
job because she's a woman with brown skin.
But
I'm telling you that is how Labour think. Yeah, I know if we put her in, then they can't accuse us of racism when we deport other people with brown skin. That is all that Labour people see.
OK, but if the conclusion of that is that
she's a perfectly talented woman, I'm just saying that's what they think.
I mean, Michael Gove said that he thinks she's the most impressive cabinet minister. I don't know how great a compliment that is, but so she is very well regarded, and she is sort of more hardline on this. Yeah. I know that one of the problems Yvette Cooper had as Home Secretary, from what I'm told, is that she was constantly asking for more money to deal with the boats crisis and couldn't get it from the Treasury. So you wonder whether she was moved on because she was rubbing people up the wrong way.
I think she's got no credibility. Yvette Cooper doesn't even believe in borders. By the way, just to let you know that Donald Trump has just bid farewell to the King after a night at Windsor Castle. I don't know if they all cuddled up in the same four-poster bed. Charlie the Chocolate Factory style. I'm going to guess not. But that was what he wanted. He wanted a night, in a four-poster bed.
I think he's got everything he wants.
Oh yeah, quite right.
And give him what he wants if it means we can have good relations for 3.5 years.
Can I just go on to something? I know I need to go to a break, but I want to get to your messages as well. But I do want to ask you about Jimmy Kimmel. Now, he's a man that a lot of people in this country may not have heard of. He's a very, very famous TV host, the Jimmy Kimmel show on ABC in America. Well, his late-night shows that huge stars paid an absolute fortune, even though actually a lot of them often don't get great ratings, given it's just a kudos thing for the networks. He's hosted the Oscars numerous occasions. He's a big figure, very well known. He has been pulled off air, we're told, indefinitely. Not being sacked, we're told, indefinitely. Now, let me just play you a very brief clip of what he had to say on his show, for which reason why he's now off air.
Some new lows over the weekend with the Maga gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Now, we know that lots of people are claiming Jimmy Kimmel, all the woke lot, who are quite happy to watch anyone else being cancelled. They would cheer to the rafters if someone like me was taken off air. That's consequences for saying things, isn't it? They're all claiming that he got taken off air over offensive comments. Now, it's been stated there were offensive comments. It wasn't. He later on went on to make various jokes. He's entitled to make any joke he wants. I have no issue with that whatsoever. I think anything's allowed to be joked about. He got taken off air because the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission chairman, and it's a political appointee, just like Ofcom is in this country. They can pretend it's not political. Yes, it is. They are political. They're complete hand-wringing liberals at Ofcom. Does the European...
No, but
they are. I mean, hi, Ofcom, but you are. And he described Kimmel's comments as truly sick, and he's threatened ABC and Disney, who own the network, to take action against him. What he said was a lie. Now, everyone's contract says it's not cancel culture. He's not been taken off air for making a joke, but he's made plenty of jokes about and cruel jokes, and he's entitled to do that. That's his job. But I don't know why the entire staff haven't been sacked over this. You're in breach of contract. Every single person who's on air has got a contract saying you can't bring the company into disrepute. You can't go on air and say something that you know for a fact to be untrue. We already knew. The suspect had already been identified. We already know enough about him to know this guy ain't MAGA. He's from the left. He was anti-MAGA. And what he said was a lie. Is that cancel culture? Or is that just, if you tell a lie on air deliberately with malign interest, because why would you say that lie otherwise, you don't get to keep your job.
I mean, look, if every US broadcaster that told a lie was sacked, and I think Fox News might be searching for airtime.
Well, people did get sacked. Tucker Carlson.
I suppose, that was over a lawsuit rather than actually anything he said. So that was a business decision. Look.
Well, mostly these are business decisions. The affiliates basically said, we don't want this guy on air anymore. We're not going to hold the show. So the show was going to lose money. Which
is actually one of the things that happened. Some of the affiliates said, we're not going to air this show. And then this Trump appointee was on a podcast saying, if they want to keep their licence. They can't behave like this. Look, I think it's wrong to sack him or to remove him from air.
Why?
Because it's a very mild comment, frankly. I mean,
He told a blatant lie.
The guy is from a right-wing conservative family. You know, he's a white guy.
Jimmy Kimmel?
No, the
Tyler Robinson.
Yeah, Tyler Robinson, and that's what he's referring to. Now, I'm not saying I would make the remark. I think it's a little off the point. Like, it's not quite right.
No, he told a lie. But he's saying it's one of their people. The kid was clearly motivated by different things, not Maga. The opposite of Maga.
Sacking a late night talk show host for a narrative he told with a punchline at the end of it, which was basically about Donald Trump, not about the murder. That is going to have a chilling effect on free speech and how TV
These
stations
people have had
behave.
a chilly... He was quite happy to see
Is it
Roseanne
okay
Barr
to do it the other way?
No, exactly. I have always defended people with whom I vehemently disagree from being cancelled. I always have, whether it's MPs or other people on air, and I'm a member of the Free Speech Union for a reason. There's a big difference. At the end of the day, if I did the same thing, if I told a blatant lie on air and they were questioned about, I would be sacked. Yes, I would, and I would expect to be. I don't remember. By the way, when we were talking about lockdown stuff and masks and vaccinations and things like that over COVID, and our station YouTube page was taken down for 3 strikes and you're out by Google here. I don't remember all these people going, "Oh, cancel culture." On the contrary, we had people here trying to get us cancelled because we were asking questions. And I'm talking about interviews with scientists and top medics and professionals being told, I'm trying to be cancelled and trying to be told, taken off air. I mean, I'm sorry, these people, they're complaining about cancel culture, but they didn't complain when anyone they disagreed with was taken off air.
Jimmy Kimmel is a victim of cancel culture.
No, he's not. He's a victim of his own lies.
No, it's not a lie, because they were obsessing over the fact that he reportedly has a transgender partner. Trying to distort the reality of what happened is what Maga has been doing. They do it all the time.
No, they're not obsessing over that fact.
It's in Trump's DNA.
What's written on the bullets? So honestly, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Donald Trump last night praised the relationship between the US and UK and described his second state visit to the UK as truly one of the highest honours of his life. The US president also hailed King Charles as a very, very special man for, he said, making Britain great again. Meanwhile, of course, both Keir Starmer and Donald Trump are braced for a barrage of questions today about, Jeffrey Epstein, in particular, what the Prime Minister knew and when about Lord Manderson's relationship with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein at that press conference later this afternoon. Also, Keir Starmer is this weekend, soon after the President has left the country, to formally recognise a Palestinian state. He's delayed the announcement until after the state visit, so it doesn't dominate their joint press conference, because, of course, Washington has made it very clear that recognising a Palestinian state while hostages are still being held and Hamas are still in charge is untenable. Meanwhile, the small matter of the one-in, one-out policy that involves no one going out but someone coming in from France on Saturday, yet another, complete joke of a development. A Home Office-backed charity, paid for, by the way, with 400 grand of comic relief donations, is providing migrants with a step-by-step guide that could help them thwart the government's one-in, one-out migrant returns deal. The charity is called BID, and they've received this money and benefits from charitable tax relief as well, producing template letters for migrants to use and suggestions for how they can use legal and human rights arguments to fight their deportation, as we've seen a 25-year-old Eritrean man suddenly remember a few days after arriving here that he had been trafficked, and, of course, would face destitution if he was returned to France because he wouldn't be in a 4-star hotel anymore. We are a Mickey Mouse country if this is allowed to continue, but there we are. Even Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, has said that these people are making a mockery of our human rights, of our laws. But the reality is actually the government is making a mockery of the British people. That's the reality, in not changing these laws and sorting this out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the recognition of a Palestinian state. While Hamas is still holding some 48 hostages, some 20 believed to still be alive. We've seen the emaciated conditions they're being kept in, starved, tortured, beaten, kept in cages in some cases underground. This as Israeli forces have been entering Gaza City. Not just for the sake of it, not to kill Gazan civilians, because they've been told to leave in individual buildings. The civilians are warned, please get out of the building, you've got 10 minutes because we're going to bomb the building. But because they want to take on the Hamas terrorists who killed and took hostage so many many people from Israel on October the 7th in 2023, and who are threatening to do it again if they get the chance. And they're holding hostages right now. I'm really not sure why everyone thinks that this is remotely controversial, but there we are. But our Prime Minister, in his infinite wisdom, i.e. virtually zero, seems to think that recognising a Palestinian state, the key aim of Hamas, other than, of course, killing every Israeli and every Jew on the planet, is a way of helping us towards peace. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at TalkTV. All together now. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1. Standard network rate message. Joining me in this on the show for the next couple of hours is Benjamin Butterworth, journalist and broadcaster. Very good morning once again to you.
Very good morning.
And you're sniggering through some of that. I mean, we shouldn't laugh, but it is laughable. All of these stories are laughable, are they not? And it is interesting. We get the Home Secretary saying, these migrants are making a mockery of our laws. No, I mean, the judges, the charities, the NGOs, the civil servants, they're making a mockery of us, aren't they?
Well, I think when you've got a situation that you can sort of appeal in perpetuity and the cost of that comes to the taxpayer, then that does seem farcical. And the question is that, they talk about things like the ECHR and whether that should be repealed, but countries like Denmark, for example, which has had a social democratic, a centre-left government for much of the last 20 years, it has had low migration, low refugee numbers. It sent its Syrian refugees back to Syria when it became more stable. And so it shows that it is possible, and also it is possible for a centre-left government to do it, because that's what happened in Denmark. Yeah. So there's a precedent there to follow. You don't have
to be far right. I know, exactly. And Germany and France happily deporting people. It's just an absolute nonsense. And everyone says it's interpretation of laws. No, it's not. A massive misinterpretation of people's right to... But it's fundamental. You've got a load of people involved in this, whether it's charities, NGOs, whether it's, in fact, a lot of Labour MPs. The last Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, I asked her many times about, give us a number of how many people we should accept from the godforsaken basket case countries of the third world. And an answer comes there, none. At the end of the day, they actually do think no one's illegal and anyone can live anywhere they want. Well, British people say no. And they've said no at every election from 2010 onwards. And nothing keeps happening. That's why I say they're making a mockery of the British people. Let's talk about, it'd be lovely to know if this would come up at this meeting at Chequers. President Trump has arrived at Chequers for a meeting with Keir Starmer, who's greeted by Keir Starmer and his wife. We know there's a lot of economic conversation, there'll be diplomatic conversation, security, all that. Pretty sure, I'd be surprised if Ukraine doesn't come up in some way, and Gaza like to come up. A press conference this afternoon could be a little bit awkward for both men. Their links with Jeffrey Epstein. But, I mean, I'm wondering, one of the things that biggest issues for a lot of British people will be, is Donald Trump going to give Keir Starmer some tips on how to secure our borders and deport people who are here illegally? Because he seems to be able to do it just fine.
I mean, reports before Donald Trump arrived in the UK said that the US president was going to go gently on Keir Starmer because...
In public, though.
Yeah, so who knows what happens in private. I suspect some of the things Donald Trump says he forgets himself 5 minutes later.
This is true.
Who knows how important anything he says is. But the suggestion is he'll go gently because he knows Keir Starmer is on the ropes, and that one of the reasons for that is the Epstein link, which obviously comes back rather close to home for Donald Trump. So you wonder if he's gonna be aggressive or as blatant as he sometimes is. I mean, the last time they met, he criticised Sadiq Khan, who he often does, and Keir Starmer awkwardly had to say, "Oh, well, that's my friend." So
that was so embarrassing.
It was uncomfortable, and so you wonder.
But Sadiq Khan has been attacking Donald Trump again. We were talking about it on the show yesterday, and it's very much a, oh, I'm still here. Look at me, look at me.
Yes, I think, well, Donald Trump's a bit like that. I think...
very much like that.
They have quite a lot in common, maybe.
Do you know what? I would love to see Donald Trump and Sadiq Khan go head-to-head. Well, they wouldn't be able to go to head-to-head, be like head to navel. So Sadiq Khan is... because when I've had conversations with Sadiq Khan, he came up to me at a party conference a few years ago, "Why are you always so horrible about me on Twitter?" I said, "Because I think you're a really, really useless mayor." But I said to his face, "Why?" And I think I'd got to number 9, my 9th finger, with all the reasons. He went, "Oh, all right," but he comes up to basically sort of
very
navel
small.
level.
He's not particularly tall and he's very slim as well. So
he's a tiny little thing.
I think next to Trump,
and
he's not.
I don't have all these horrible words people use about him. But my thing is very simple. I don't like your policies. I'm allowed to criticise you if I don't like your policies.
Well, I think so. The question is, will Sadiq Khan come up? But then I think Israel-Palestine might be one of the more contentious points because, will Donald Trump feel affronted that Keir Starmer announced this despite this relationship with the US, despite them saying don't do it, and the idea that Starmer and members of the government are going to leave this summit and then go off to the UN to recognise it against the wishes of the US.
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, Sharon Haskell, the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister for Israel, was just on the show just before the top of the hour. We didn't get a chance to get your reaction to that. But, I mean, as she's pointing out, this is about appeasing his own party, his own electorate. And she's quite right. I've been saying this for years. Anti-Semitism just suddenly spring out of nowhere. We imported millions of people who come from countries and a culture where anti-Semitism is absolutely the norm. Completely and utterly the norm, it's like if we'd imported a massive load of white South Africans who had supported apartheid and then been really surprised if they were racist when they arrived here. No, really, what a shocker! We've imported that culture. It's got because of the whole hierarchy of victimhood in this whole sort of wokery graph they've got, like who's the victim and who's not. They've decided, Muslims are at the bottom. They decided Jews, who used to be at the bottom but now are white, they've decided, so they're at the top. And this crazy sort of victim Olympics that the left and the wokerati play has basically said, well, this must be you must be going with every cause that any Muslim community leader cites. Well, one of their biggest causes is Gaza, the Palestinian state, anti-Israel, and it's not so much pro-Palestinian, it's anti-Israel, and yes, it's anti-Jew. That is what its basis is. And he is pandering to that, and we see that. We saw that with Angela Rayner, the former Deputy Prime Minister. We see it with so many of these political leaders when they are, when they're going to visit, the kowtowing, agreeing to meetings where men are only allowed, not women, or they're segregated, stuff they would never allow any other religious group to do, and they just play along with it, and they are so desperate for that vote. I'm sorry, but it's virtue signalling of the worst kind, because it's not a virtue, it's vice signalling to get votes.
But look, some of these people that constantly go on about Gaza, they hate Jews. They support
Let's just
Hamas.
Be honest, yeah.
If they simply cared, if they had a legitimate human concern about suffering, which is fine, and there is suffering in Gaza,
100%.
So talk about that. That's we should do that. But you never hear them talk about the 500,000 people who have died in Yemen. You don't talk about the worst famine in the world right now, which is in South Sudan and Khartoum, its capital, which is so monstrously ugly that no journalist can get near there.
You never hear them saying, why hasn't Egypt opened its border with Gaza?
Precisely.
Instead of what they've done, they've reinforced it and added another 3 layers of fortifications since the Gaza, the Hamas attack.
The truth is, recognising Palestine now is nothing more than a bauble for barbarism. It is telling them that if you keep pushing at this, if you keep behaving in this monstrous way,
behave as savages,
and whipping up hate, we will slowly but surely reward you. If
you literally behave as savages, and what happened, and having been to the sites, like the Nova Festival site, where the kibbutz, where all but 6 of the 200 homes were burnt, mostly with families with children in them. I mean, I think you actually have to be there to realise the sheer scale and the sheer horror of the barbarism, and then to take people hostages, to torture, rape, beat them, starve them, to carry on holding them, to taunt people with videos, a man digging his own grave, looking like a victim of the Holocaust. That's deliberate. They know exactly what they're doing. To then use your own, to literally be public about that you are using your own civilians as a shield, to have an entire network like the London Underground of tunnels underneath so you can wage war. They spent 20 years preparing for this moment, and then the British government, because they're the nice people, say we would recognise a Palestinian state, even though all of that has happened, and there has been. Hamas has at no point ever said, we regret what we've done, and we take, they could at any point down their weapons, end the war. The war would end tomorrow if they chose for it to end. But if as their whole lives says, if Israel put down their weapons, then Israel doesn't exist anymore. It is
what they want.
It is unfathomable to me that the British government is falling for the UN propaganda, the Hamas propaganda, the BBC propaganda. They fall for it as well. Although I don't believe that the war reporters for the BBC, by the way, are so stupid they don't know what they're doing. I just think the anti-Semitism has been now so rife in the BBC, they don't even see it anymore.
But I also think there's actually quite a condescending racism about
definitely
about how they talk about Jews in Israel, but also about how the Muslims and Muslim leaders in these parts of the world are perceived, because it's talked about as though they don't know any better, as though they're just too stupid to recognise our Western values.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. They know exactly what they're doing, what's going on. And although is a huge problem of anti-Semitism, I've travelled a lot in the Middle East, and I remember being in Lebanon in a gay couple that were renting out a B&B, and they told me, you're not allowed in our flat in Lebanon unless you support Israel, because we know who wants to kill us, and it's not Israel.
Well, there we are then. Just some breaking news for you. The first Channel migrant has been deported to France under the one-in, one-out deal. I mean, knock me down with a feather. I am absolutely blown away it's actually happened. It's a migrant from India. What basis were you even attempting to claim any sort of status in our country? A migrant from India is believed, according to French government sources, to have been flown into Paris on an Air France passenger plane from Heathrow this morning, despite threats of legal action. He's the first of up to 100 Channel migrants detained by Border Force at the start of August who have actually been sent to France. This follows 3 days of the failure to remove a single migrant in the one-in, one-out scheme. But I tell you, when they said one-in, one-out, they were saying, but it would be 50 a week. I know it's a pilot scheme, or, you know, experimental, I think is the word that the French have used. But, you know, when we didn't think they actually meant one in, one out. You know, when we were joking about, weren't we, like, you know, 17 in, one out, you know, and all that, you know, and you know, we didn't. This is what it looks like. We've got one bloke. I mean, he's from India. I mean, you know, you could be sent back to India, for goodness sake. Absolute joke. And we know about, you know, this Eritrean guy who claims suddenly remembered 3 days after arriving here that, oh yes, I was a victim of human trafficking. I mean, and claiming that he would be destitute if he was in France. You know, as I said, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, saying that these migrants fighting deportation using these legal loopholes are making a mockery of our laws, even though the Home Office backs a charity that literally tells them how to do it. I mean, it literally tells them how to do it. The charity, I mean, I just find this extraordinary, because the charity is called Bail for Immigration Detainees, BID. Bail for, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It tells them how to get bail and then how to basically disappear and stay in this country. Are you as stunned as I am? I mean, genuinely, guys, one has actually been deported. 31,000 have arrived, and we've sent one back to France. Come on, well done. I mean, if that isn't smashing the gangs, I don't know what is, Prime Minister. You must be so proud. Benjamin?
Well, they've done what they said on the tin. There's one out.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm kind of stunned that someone from India, a rapidly developing country, I think it's got the fastest growing economy of the major economies.
I know people emigrating to India.
Exactly. So the idea that you'd have any case as a refugee from India slightly amazes me. Also, I'll tell you what's ironic. I've been trying to get a visa for India. It's really hard. It's so complicated. I have to go into the High Commission. So, you know, maybe we should be a bit more like India.
You just can't make this stuff up. But I mean, they'll be so pleased. But what I love is the government, the Home Secretary, the Prime Minister will be sort of at this press conference. This will come up at the press conference. Finally got one out. I mean, he'll be literally on his knees this morning. Please, please, for the love of God, get one migrant out today ahead of this press conference. But it doesn't touch the sides. The British people are just going to be laughing. I mean, just laughing. The policy itself was mad. Even if it worked, the policy, and was scaled up, it would still be mad. We'd still end up with more people here than we would otherwise, because people could come here legally, bring their families. We're still ending up paying for these people, not in a 4-star hotel or whatever, but we'll still be paying their benefits. You telling me all these people are all speaking brilliant English, they've got PhDs, they're going to be getting great jobs. What a load of abject nonsense that is. And they'll be bringing their second cousin and goodness knows who else under these rules. So we're still in just the same state. It's just a slightly different bad state. The British people are just going to, I mean, you go to the pub tonight, people are going to be laughing at this.
I mean, they have put on hold the right for refugees to bring their family in. I think they have to be here, is it 2 years now? Which is normal in other European countries.
It's often taken them 2 years to get here. They'll wait.
But they are making it harder to bring relatives in, which I think is the right thing to do. Look, I actually think that we should take refugees. We should help some of the vulnerable people from around the world.
How many?
And, well, this is my point. I actually think Keir Starmer would be in a better position if he made the argument that is clearly his natural inclination as a human rights barrister, which is to say that we should help some people and have refugees and make the moral argument for that, which I would. I know some people don't love that idea. But you have to, therefore, have numbers in mind because...
I've asked every Labour representative, give me a number, to the nearest 100,000, as it will, to the nearest million, to the nearest 10 million, and answer comes there none every single time.
The problem is the world has changed, so it's never been easier for people to be mobile and to get to other countries.
That's why these older conventions don't count. Just fine. I want to come back to Jimmy Kimmel. He's the TV show, the late night TV show host. He has been sacked. Well, not sacked. He's been removed, for the foreseeable future from his late night TV show. We were told because he made offensive remarks, and it wasn't because he made a joke. He's made lots of jokes about lots of things, including Donald Trump, many times. Yes, but the left are saying this is cancel culture because he's made jokes about MAGA and about Trump. But this is actually what he had to say.
Some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
As anything other than one of them. I mean, this kid, he's a grown, he's a grown man, Tyler Robinson, the man who's been accused of this crime. But he, 22-year-old, for goodness sake, he was clearly, we've seen, when he did this monologue, by the way, there have been 20 writers and directors and editors who would have overseen that. I mean, I'm not joking. Like that'd be the minimum. That's just a writer's room. And they would all have approved this. He knew this was a lie. He would have known categorically this was a suspect who, from what he wrote on his casings, what he's written, what he told his partner, his boyfriend, who's trans, someone who's apparently transitioning from, he thinks, from male to female. Not possible, but there we are. No, but it's not. But he from his own claims, from what he said to his parents, his views are not MAGA, they're anti-MAGA. That was a lie. If I came on air and I said something that I knew categorically to be untrue about, particularly a very sensitive issue, when you've got people with guns shooting people and calling people to die because they have different views, I would quite rightly be taken off air. I would be in breach of contract. I'd be bringing this station into disrepute. I don't come on air and tell lies.
But you're not a comedian, and this.
Well, neither is he.
This was part of a joke and narrative. The punchline of which was about Donald Trump and not about Charlie Kirk. Look, I think.
The punchline had nothing to do with that statement, that it was a MAGA motivation.
Look, much worse things are said by people on the right in the US on networks and on the internet all the time. And they don't get cancelled by Trump.
I disapprove of loads of people on the right for this, and I think the right saying, like, oh, it's terrible, the left are all imbued. The left constantly justify violence against people on the right, which I think is appalling. But the right have said some absolutely shocking and terrible things, and I call it out on I call it out as well whenever any cancel culture. I never want anyone cancelled because of the view and opinion they give or their beliefs. But if you are going on air and you are stating something as categorically as a fact, which is categorically, factually, provably untrue, you are probably in breach of your contract, and you will. And if affiliates who basically people who make money for you, you're on air to make money in American TV, nothing else.
No, they don't make money anymore.
No, exactly, they don't. But if they're going to lose an absolute fortune, millions, because loads of stations say, well, we won't carry him anymore. Well, that's as they call, that's just the repercussions for you choosing to lie.
Because, people like Donald Trump and particularly J.D. Vance talk about free speech. They
are both hypocrites on that issue.
They don't want free speech. They want a free pass. That is often the case.
I agree with you.
And the reason they've taken Jimmy Kimmel off air...
They haven't taken Jimmy Kimmel off air.
Well, they threatened ABC, which is the network
they didn't know. Well, no, a representative, the federal board, which like Ofcom, gives out these licences.
But, come on, if someone made a comment, even an inappropriate or inaccurate comment, if the head of Ofcom said, we'll take your channel off tomorrow, you would think that was absurd. And that's what Trump's official has said
Ofcom
in the US.
Absolutely have the power to do that.
But it's never
And I would be sacked before they would do that, and quite rightly.
The truth is, this is about attacking liberals on US television. There is an agenda to get these people out.
Well, to be fair, the liberals are getting a taste of their own medicine. I have absolutely supported anybody, whether I agree with them or disagree with them, their right to say stuff which I fundamentally disagree with and I think is horrible and wrong. But there's a difference between that and blatantly, outrightly paid millions of dollars to then tell lies and then go, oh, now I'm a victim. No, this is a guy, by the way, who celebrated every other cancellation every single time.